remember that. And some things, then suddenly I would remember it, or I might not remember it at all. I still don't remember some of these things. Nothing especially bad. It's just that over time, my memory had changed things. I had changed things to fit a certain way. It's odd.
So quickly before we dive in to this deep philosophical discussion about memory, etc., that's where we're headed. This is from the Rocky Mountain Museum of Military History. And Tate and Linda have signed it down here. It's a certificate of appreciation to PFC Victor Machart, U.S. Army, with gratitude and respect for your service upon the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. Oh. There you go. Thank you. So without further ado, want me to hold that for you? We'll put it with that.
Right.
Victor Machart.
Okay, well, thanks. What I'm going to do today, and it's going to be, it's a little bit awkward because part of it has to do with some of the things I found in the journals that were very interesting. And there's some things very dull, and I'll give examples of that too. And then the pictures. And so what I'm going to sort of do is comment on things and then read some journal items. And it's not going to be everything because I tried that. And if you want to be here for a week, it's a little crazy. But anyway, we'll start off, let's see, I think I may end up needing, there we go. That is our tree outside of the headquarters company, 7th Transportation Battalion. And that was who I served with. The colonels at the time, I went there in January of 1969, January 16th, I think, that night we got there. But I'm going to read just a little bit from Saturday and Sunday, January 11th and 12th, just because it's going to mention some people that will show up a little bit later. Saturday and Sunday, January 11th and 12th, arrived in Oakland about 11:30 a.m., saw a little of the bay and the Oakland Bay Bridge. But it was rainy and the visibility is down. I didn't see the Golden Gate Bridge, but I did see Alcatraz. Saw Nat Thomas, Menley, Minks, Ivy, and Joe Louis Johnson from truck driving school at Fort Leonard Wood. Ivy tells me he's filing for divorce. He told me his wife refuses to want him, much less love him. And then we go on through there. Then we go to Friday, 17th of January, and I think I'll just move on. I'll just go on a little bit here. Arrived at Long Bin last night about 9 p.m. They found out I could type at least 20 words a minute, so I went from being a truck driver to being a battalion clerk, to become a safety accident clerk for their headquarters. I will learn the office routine and be worked in to take over the job of accident report clerk when the present guy leaves for the States in March. Being in an office, I worry about my military courtesy. Then a footnote. I am one of those poor souls who have trouble with precise protocols, such as when and how to salute and what rote phrases one needs to use while doing so. I have a tendency to go all apart on things like that. Okay, so I'll move on a little bit. Oops, maybe it's this way. Okay. That sort of just tells you who and what and so on. And I won't speed it. Oh no, I should be able to see it right here. Okay, this is the chain of command in Vietnam at the time. At the top is the United States Army of Vietnam under General Abrams. Then he went to Logistical Command under Hurl. Then Saigon Support Command under General Heiser. Then 48th Group, which is like a brigade, and that was Colonel Swanson. And then we had the 7th Transportation Battalion. Started out with Lieutenant Colonel Irwin Hilton. Then there was Lieutenant Colonel John Bruin. And when I left, it was Lieutenant Colonel Porter. Executive officers are Major Mays and then Toner, and there's some interesting things to say about them. Adjutant was Lieutenant Kohat, and then Lieutenant Lloyd. And then we'll move on a little bit. That's a map of Vietnam, and I am located, whoopsie daisy, right about in there. And there's Saigon. It says Ben Hoa here, and right next to Ben Hoa is where I was located at Long Binh Post. And then down here, oh yeah, there's a place called Vung Tau. Just barely make it up, right on the coast. And there'll be some pictures and description of Vung Tau. It was a rather neat place. This shows you up in that corner is Ben Hoa and the big air base there. That's where I landed. And then over here, I think, yeah, is Long Binh Post, sort of shaped like a triangle. And then there it is again. And we're located right down, let's see here, on the far corner. There's a right about there is where we're located. Right along Highway 1A that ran from Ben Hoa down to Saigon. And it was across the road, there's a factory, you can make it out. And our hooches were right on the perimeter of that road. So anything happening, it got a little bit interesting at times. And this is sort of, imagine yourself as you're coming from Saigon toward Long Binh, just going over the river, and you can see some of the big boat stuff, but there's a guard, Army Republic of Vietnam, ARVN. And there's the river, and then you can see off on one spot there is a huge helicopter. Then you see some of the boats on the river. And this is sort of as though you're riding in a bus, going over toward, let's see, yeah, we're working. And this is sort of a typical street in some of the little villages you're going along. Rather messy, noisy. It's not quite very crowded just yet. Gets a little bit more crowded as time goes on. Here's a bunch of military police that are coming out of their, they're shooting along, coming right out of the gate on these bikes and off to rescue or give some trouble, whatever. There's one guy is saluting, you might notice. I didn't notice that until just, this is a little street stall. It's actually in Saigon, but it was a common thing to see. And it was often, when you come through these villages, there's often a good chance of seeing these little, neat little gardens. Houses surrounded by walls, a little gateway and a garden there with beautiful flowers in them. This is a little temple, little Chinese style temple. There was a lot of them and they're very neat to see. You're going along there. This is heading toward Long Binh. This is, again, another little town on the edge around Ben Hoa. The tall building with the steeple is a Catholic church. About 10% of the people were Catholic. They had been converted by the French, but they're very strong in their beliefs. And so there's you would see a lot of these churches scattered about. And also the rest of the people, for the most part, were Buddhist. There's, as you come in the gate, you can see, I wish I could do something, but you can see the map of the post. Let's see, there we go. A little bit another closer one. Here, the workers, the Vietnamese workers, the army employed a lot of workers, nationals, to come in and do kinds of work, everything from secretarial work to cleaning latrines to what would amount to kitchen police to carpentry, electricians, thousands of these. And Long Binh Post, incidentally, had about 50,000 people living on it, which in that day was the size of, I think, of Fargo, probably Billings, living on there in an area that wasn't that big, land-wise, but it was a big place. And here they're coming into work. They live in the surrounding villages or towns. Here's going home. And a lot of fashion people. You can see a lot of them wearing with those big fancy umbrellas, things like that. And the conical hats, very common, also very cool. And both literally and figuratively. Here is a bit of around the post, there's these thick bunker-like walls. protect the, okay, so one of the things you're gonna notice is Long Bin Post is rather drab looking. And there'll be comments on that in a little bit. As you can see. Yippee! Now this is there's a swamp, and up on the top is a hill. You can see these buildings sort of off the distance on the top of that hill. That is the United States Army Vietnam, their headquarters, where General Abrams and all the others lived and worked. And there's this big area around it that, like a no man's land. It looks very peaceful there. You can see everything, but I would imagine if you tried just tiptoeing through the tulips to get there, something would happen. And there you can see a better view of it up on the hill. I never did get up there. This is a Long Bin Military Police building. I happened to go up there for some business. I had some business one day. I think it was getting my shots to go to Bangkok. And on the way back, I started taking pictures of the different places I'd seen. This is, I never noticed this before, U.S. Army PW Hospital, Long Bin. I had never noticed that until I pulled out the picture 50 years later and looked at it. So apparently they had a prisoner of war place there as well. Otherwise, it was the 93rd and 24th Evac hospitals. Here's the fire station, and the lady in civilian clothes, that was very unusual. I had never, to see that was very, she may have been a nurse or somebody just trying to get out of go for a walk, I don't know. This is a chapel up at group headquarters, 48th group. Somebody moving along. I've got, there's a guy there with, you can see he's got a broom, there's one here. Now, that building there is the Long Bin Jail. There's another picture of it coming up. It's a huge place. That's where, for soldiers that got in trouble for various reasons.
And how often were you there?
I was the secret spy that put people in there. I knew all who had did what. You know, the traffic accidents and stuff like that. And there you can see it again. It's also called LBJ, which stood for quite a while as initials for the president. So, 48th Transportation Group. Now, one thing that's very interesting to is look at the last word.
Yeah.
Transport. It wasn't uncommon for people to sneak by and just add a little something, different signs and things to annoy people, especially if they're higher rank. Especially things were getting rather outrageous, and I knew some guys that did that type. I didn't know any personally that had done it, but I knew the guy that painted the signs. 48th Transportation Group, that's where they pretty much directed us, and there's another battalion, the 6th Battalion of Trucking Battalion, and they pretty much oversaw everything we were doing, gave us the directions. And this is driving up along the road to headquarters company, 7th Transportation Battalion. And part of that was we were the headquarters company. Then there at Long Bin, there was a 10th Transportation Company under Captain Greenberg, 62nd under Captain Ames, 120th at Canto under Captain Posta, 379th Company under Lieutenant Hunnisher, 534th under Captain Zare, 543rd Captain Schwal, that was at Two Duck, and then 805th at Vung Tau, and that was Captain Ostergren. Okay, and there you can see our buildings. We had a white picket fence, and there periodically guys having sit out in the hot sun and paint the damn thing. And there was another part here. It says this sort of breaks it down under the headquarters company. It was Lieutenant Hilton, then Bruin, then Porter, then Major Hayes, and then Toner. Sergeant Major Wilson, Command Sergeant Major Knowles, and others. Where then there was S1 had to do with record keeping. Administrative details, books and stuff, court records, accidents, daily reports, and that was part of that. Part 2 was S2 was intelligence operations. S3 took care of trucking operations. COMA was the communications and radio, that was under S3. And then under S4 was they took care of the general battalion upkeep, functioning, repair, including the mess hall, supply rooms, and then taking care of the national and Vietnamese workers. This is John Wayne. That was his nickname. But he's a rather sweet guy, and I think it was done a little bit of sarcasm, the teasing type of thing. But he's a good guy, and this is a map that I drew of the grounds. It's in the journal. Of the buildings, starting at the top is the headquarters. It goes down the big building toward the bottom is the mess hall, and then all these places were, plus where the truckers stayed, their hooches. Daily missions. This has to do with things that people had to do, basically behind the lines. And there, as you can see, the trucking, all the trucks all lined up, and you can see some hooches in the background. It's very flat there, except for curious little hillocks with trees on the top. That's a formation, morning formation. The big tough guy at the front with that white, where is he? Yeah, I think that's him right there. Sergeant Major Wilson. There's a few things on him. Joe Louis Johnson, he was I trained to be a truck driver with him. He'll turn up. These are some weapons. And I've never been, this is one of the reasons I never got very far. I could never remember weapons or bullet size and all the things that you need to know. Like Sergeant Fripple, he would go off, he was part of the company headquarters, but he went off on a lot of the convoys. And the convoys went throughout the whole Delta area. And some of them will be mentioned. First Sergeant Adams. Another guy I don't recognize, but Sergeant Adams, he's the one that sent my camera to Vung Tau to take pictures, and I was allowed to accompany it. That was what he told me. You see the trucks all getting ready to go. Command Sergeant Knowles is here. He's his E9, which is about as high as I can go with enlisted men. He was a very interesting person. He was very easy to work with. He told you what to do. He encouraged you. He sort of knew when to push, when to pull back, everything. I can see why he made E9. I mean, he was really good. We had a couple of those guys that drove us crazy. This guy didn't. This is sort of common. These are a bunker on the grounds, and you'll know some unusual symbolism. There's an FTA, which stands for something to the Army. And then there is the one over here, which is a peace sign. And then there's one, I think somebody got interrupted making a peace sign. But what's interesting is they didn't really take him down. They sort of knew people had to get this stuff out. And so there was none of these things. You'll see one a little bit later by one of the people and what he had to say about the Commander-in-Chief. Officers only. Everybody else, including Command Sergeant Knowles, can't go in there. Here's some guys putting up the communication on the radio building.
Can you see it all?
You can see them moving around. These are three of the guys. They're filling sandbags. That guy is the Colonel's driver, Lee, and then Martin, we'll talk about later, and Dutch, he's the one that taught me a lot. He was a draftsman, he taught me a lot about cameras. Moore, he was another driver for the Sergeant Major. Skip, he had a little baby girl that day, and he's got the picture of her. He was a neat guy from New York City. Armstrong, he becomes my roommate later, and he was a draftsman. Horn is the driver. He's what made Horn's a neat name. But my desk is right next to the Sergeant Major's desk, and kitty corner from the office of the Major and the Colonel. And so a lot of people waiting to sit in the chair by my desk. Miss Chua, there's more talk about her. She's there, she's having lunch. And she's wondering who this character is. Take her picture. Miss Tao, she was the colonel's secretary. Browner, he is the postman, and he's also head clerk in the S1. Let's see, I'm looking for a place. Thompson is hauling the mail. This is two ladies that have a shop, a tailor shop on the nearby, and you go there and get your clothes mended. You can get buy clothes. You can buy all kinds of neat things there. Sort of a souvenir shop as well. Nuji, who was one of my favorite people, she was one of our house mothers. We called her a mama-san, and she would clean the place, and she would the offices, and she cleaned the hooches, and she'd polish the boots and stuff. And I'm going to go on to do a little reading here. All right, this is the first morning, Friday, 17th of January. This morning I just talked to a young North Vietnamese refugee. He works as an interpreter here. He arrived in the South in 1954, a Catholic from Haiphong. He is also a math and physics teacher. He tells me he's very glad to be in the South, where he and his people can worship as they please. He tells me that his people are very devout, go to church every Sunday, holy day, and even 2 or 3 times a day. What about these people? If the communists take over, I understand that they not only make their welfare, religion, are highly disliked because of their position in the South. They often hold the best lands, best jobs, and much money is spent getting them into society. And if we pull out, what happens to them? More human tragedy, I suppose. It seems that no decision can be made in this world without hurting some and pleasing others. Oh yes, I couldn't let it by. Occasionally I'd look at the interpreter and wondered, maybe he's a Charlie Con. More in humor than the two of Mama Sons is Nuji. She works here cleaning the barracks and polishing boots. Her husband was a sergeant in the Republican Army and was killed by the VC. The two ladies wore crucifixes around their neck. They were trying to speak to me, and I got the distinct impression that they were trying to teach me Vietnamese. They would point and repeat a word. Where am I at here? They would point and repeat a word. And if I didn't get it, they kept the process up, pointing it. And they would laugh and have a good time at my bonehead. Later, they asked me how many brothers and sisters I had. I told them and took out my photo album and showed them the pictures. They were very pleased with that and seemed nicely impressed. The way we all act when looking at somebody else's family album. Then it struck me how rich we looked. My mother in her nice dress and finely fixed hair. My pretty sister's new sparkly dress. Tom, my brother, and his fine bike. Our pretty well-built house with flowers, a lawn, and Cousin Jim's car parked out in front. And here were these poor ladies, and the thing about it is that we would probably be just as poor and in the same social economic level if we lived in Vietnam. We'd be as poor as they, yet we were so terribly rich in comparison to them. January 25th, Saturday. I filled out my first accident report today and made a big boo-boo. I notified group of it, that's brigade, without going to the colonel first. It seems they like all accidents occurring in the battalion yards and concerning only the battalion to stay here at the office if possible. We don't want the battalion to get a bad name. Sunday, February 2nd. I saw a Vietnamese girl rescue 3 apples from the goddamn garbage cans today, all covered in scrambled eggs, syrup, and juice. Thursday, February 6th. Do you know how far some people will go to keep our beloved colonel happy? It seems our colonel doesn't like apple or tomato juice. So Strader, when he had my job of making coffee, would buy, with his own money, grapefruit and orange juice for the colonel's pitcher. On those unfortunate days, they served only apple or tomato juice. My God, talk about toting. My money is little enough without having to spend it, so the colonel doesn't have to worry about it spoiling his taste buds. Tuesday, February 11th. Well, I saw the jungle close up for the first time today. We went there to test the M14 rifles we were given. Me, Browner, Osborne, Archer, Wrecker from headquarters. It was very beautiful and somewhat spooky. Beautiful lush green underbrush, ferns, palm-like bushes. Above the underbrush lower oak and maple-like trees. Soaring above them were tall, beautiful palm trees, and trees resembling our oak and maple. It was a mysterious place. There seemed to be another world hidden within. I wanted to swallow myself up in its strange world, but there wasn't time, and of course, it would be very dangerous. Not only obvious things like getting lost, poisonous plants, dangerous animals, but our friends the VC might be in there watching us. We found 2 magazines, did a piddling bit of policing, and rode back to the post. Then I could, and I'm not going to, you can all agree, I could give you an example of what I did about every 5 minutes for the entire day, Valentine's Day, starting at 0:65 when I got up, to 10:30 back to filing regulations, 12:15 go back to the office, look at escapade calendar. The cover scrolls, whoops, never mind. 1600 find Wrecker, send them off to get men at group, and all the way 17:30 go to chow. So anyway, I made a big list one day of everything I did. February 14th, I had a scare tonight while in the day room. I was in a little reading room taking notes. The stereo was bleeding out some rock and roll tune about undying love, and on TV, Jackie Gleason was loudly proclaiming his indignation to Alice about things she's up to. Sheer noise. Suddenly, I heard the rattle of machine gun bullets. Then it came a second and third time. I sat there waiting for what would come next. The stereo and Jackie bleated on. A big Negro on the other table put down his book and watched. The stereo and Jackie bleated on. A guy crept up to a window to look out. There was too much light reflected from the screen to see out. I looked up at a big wall map of the United States and focused on Minnesota and North Dakota. The music bleated on. So did Jackie. I focused on where Detroit Lakes would be. That was our town. A Hail Mary mechanically came to my lips. The bleeding continued on and on. In time, we settled back to our reading and my note-taking, and everything continued on. I should also mention I have not changed. What I've written in here is written, I've not put my current opinions down. I'm putting down things as I wrote them up 50 years ago. So there'll be some things that may not be considered
appropriate.
Okay, March 31st, Monday. I'm in a foul mood tonight. I'm angry with myself and the world. In the day room, Sergeant Major Wilson sings, "It Ain't Necessarily So," in a beautiful voice. He seems to enjoy himself, draws closer to the men in the day room, playing pool. I'm tempted to think, how nice, he likes his men. And then I scoff at myself at my sentimentality. One thing about, this Sergeant Major Wilson was a rather interesting man. I had a very high opinion of him, and did right till the late time he left. But one of the things that was sort of interesting is he also had he was a rather moody sort of person, so sometimes makes you get a little bit crazy. April Fool's Day, Tuesday, April 1st, Long Been Vietnam. Today we set the clocks and watches ahead to fool Lieutenant Kohat. That worked for about 5 minutes. Otherwise, it's been pretty much like every other day, some filing regulations. Friday, April 4th, Good Friday. Today at 3 p.m., Christ died upon the cross. And old Bo, our mother's son, Mama San, the other lady, is sitting in the corner. Chants her prayers to her dying God. Her song's a strange, weird concoction. It sounds to me like a requiem some old Indian chief would chant over the dead far out on the eastern prairie. Also on that same day, this is what I read in a report from the 7th Transportation Battalion that was forwarded to the group. It deals with the ambush of August 25th, 1968, between Go Dao Ha and Tay Ninh. And what I was doing was I was helping write up, they're trying to get a commendation for the unit, for the battalion, for bravery, going above and beyond the call of duty. And it has, here's what I read in the report. As our convoy began to approach, maybe a quarter mile from the rubber plantation ambush site, the men saw a large number of civilians carrying personal belongings and moving rapidly toward the convoy and away from the plantation. As the trucks approached, the people pointed toward the ambush site and shouted, VC, VC, VC. Unfortunately, the convoy leadership paid no attention, and they drove on into the ambush, which lasted from 11:30 in the morning until 8 that night. Cost 4 dead, 10 wounded, and 1 missing in action. These men fought well, but the convoy leaders showed distressing lack of sense. What gives the document a certain credence, authenticity, is that for the sake of the convoy leaders, it would have been better to have omitted the reference to the villagers that warned them. Then the same day, well, rank pulls its weight. Lieutenant Russell came to report an accident tonight. Damage estimated at $300 for a Vietnamese motorbike. Vietnamese fault. Major Mays walks in and says, "Isn't it more like $90? Poor Russell says, "The damage was estimated by the MPs. Driver said the bike was totaled." "But," says the major, "did you see the damage?" "No." "Then how do you know it wasn't $90? "But," says the major, oh yeah, I said that, okay. "You know," the major continues, "that if their estimates are wrong, and it's $90 instead of $300, it could be the difference of getting a day off for your company. Of course, I'm not suggesting anything. It's your estimate that counts." Talk about big blood. Poor Lieutenant Russell. I shielded my face from the major and gave Russell the most sympathetic look I could. Final estimate, $90. Easter Sunday, April 6th. I started reading Vu Nguyen Giap's, and I don't know if I pronounced it right, People's War, People's Party, a very interesting account of guerrilla warfare by the North Vietnamese defense minister. Reason I just happened to mention it, this gives you an idea of the different types of books that were available to us. And I found that really, really quite interesting. Okay, yes, I think I'm gonna. Okay, Wednesday, April 16th. I spent the entire day working on citations with Lieutenant Kohat. I got a whole new set of figures for tons of delivered, etc. Our figures didn't jive. Tomorrow we'll try again. While working on the citation, I came across a couple of interesting letters from Colonel Hilton. On March 11th, the VC attempted to ambush one of our convoys. They fired shots into the convoy, but the drivers kept their cool and got out of the kill zone with no damage or injuries. One of the drivers getting a commendation was my friend Joe Louis Johnson for keeping his cool. I felt good reading that. If we get meritorious commendation, it'll be because of drivers keeping their cool like he did. Saturday, April 14th. Today has been a wonderful day. First of all, I got promoted to Specialist 4, which is about the same level as a corporal. Monday, April 21st. One article was on the I spent a day writing up newspaper articles for the 48th Group's newspaper, Roadrunner. One article was on the party we had on 23rd, giving annual inspection, followed the annual general inspection, and one of the Bronze Stars given to 2 transportation men who risked life and limb putting out fires and ammunition pallets at 3rd Ordnance and another during a mortar attack on March 24th. Not only this, but they moved trucks loaded with ammunition out of the danger of the rockets. They jolly well deserved their medals. And we'll move on a little bit. Oh yeah, Monday, April 28th. Saw a rather thrilling sight today. A U.S. Army tank going hell-bent for election down I-1, with Old Glory flying at full mast. Okay, then I think we'll move on a little bit. Anyway, that's Nuji. She is the lady from Hanoi. And this guy is the, I think his name was Frank, but he is a carpenter that worked for the battalion. This poor soul, he had the job of cleaning the what do they call him, the ship burner and a ship burner shack, and that was what he did. Not a very pleasant
And that
job.
was the house he lived in.
That was his temporary one, yeah. This is some guys, it is some friends. Oh, Martin is up there, Dutch, Barunda, and the others, I'm not really sure who they are. This guy that's the radio building behind him, and anyway, he's delivering message, that's Guth. More about him. This is Bronner, he's one of the postmen. I became a postman there for a while too. First Sergeant Adams, he was really a neat guy. Sort of kept us all cool. That's me going over a report. Trying to get the major. It's sort of funny, the major was very picky about the words on reports. And on the day that the moon landing, or actually the day they took off to go to the moon, I'm sitting in the office because the major doesn't like the words I have, so he puts his words in, and then I retype the whole thing, then I take it back to him, he takes it to the colonel doesn't like the major's words, and so I have to retype it, it gets going on and on. So that's probably on that day. There's Horn and Lee, and their drivers, they're doing some work on a Jeep. This is during a rainstorm, and there's some of the Vietnamese nationals that are working on base, and they are taking some refuge underneath part of it, taking shelter underneath an eave while the rain is coming down. They're all ages, from fairly young to very old ladies. You'll see more of them. This is another one of the mama sons doing some work, trying out some black and white. The picture was in sort of rough shape. It gives you sort of an idea. There's Nuji, she's polishing all those boots. It gets worse. Yeah, they're getting some water, collecting water for some cleaning or something, washing. Another guy up there fixing wires, looking off toward the post. That's Grandma Bo, the old one in the office. She's also cleaning. She's doing boots that day. Here is payday. Miss Chua, she's there. Lieutenant Rast, and they're paying the workers for the work. At that time, I'm the librarian. The last 2 months I was there, I was a librarian, and so I sort of help out while they did that. And she's sort of looking up at something. This is December, and there's some of the guys, the young guys, they're sort of sitting, waiting to get called up. And then there's sign, what was the man in the back reading? And I just discovered this a few weeks ago. There he is again. Then look at the magazine cover. Lieutenant Calley. And that's Massacre. It's a Time magazine. Storm clouds over UCV headquarters. They're coming to work in the rain. A lot of color. I got a big charge out of color. Throw out their umbrella. This is a guy of, oh yeah, the UCV had probably, it'd be early in the morning. That would be early in the morning, the sun is coming up. And they're getting ready. All the boots. There's one guy, you can see him, he's sitting over there, he's taking a sun bath. That's me. And then you can see the factory across the road, and the highway's right between us, the main highway. Here we're at lunch in the mess hall. Oh yeah, I like to show myself. I was pretty good looking for 50 years ago.
27.
Here we're going out, and this happens now and then. I'm going to read for a little bit, but this happens a little bit, and I'll tell you about that. come back to that one just for a little bit here. Yeah. Sunday, May 18th, a short time ago I looked out the window and saw two big oxen holding a two-wheeled cart along the road above Highway 1A. Wednesday the 21st. Just visited the new battalion library. It's good. Everything from Aristotle to Perry Mason. Problems of Modern Cities to D.H. Lawrence's Lady Chatterley's Lover. Atomic Theory to high school English texts. Thursday, May 22nd, we had a violent storm today. The wind and rain were furious. It looked like a great North Dakota blizzard outside. You could only see the slightest outline of the factory across the highway. The door to S1 blew open, and by the time they got it closed, it looked like someone had socked it to straighter with a heavy pail of water. I stuck the typewriter cover between the bars of my window to keep the rain from coming in. Miss Tao and Miss Lee and Miss Chu are secretaries. Miss Tao plays Vietnamese radio on my music. I'm getting to like the music. She helps listen for the phones for me. We visit a lot. Miss Tao can be moody, irritable. Miss Lee has a snappier personality and likes to make wisecracks. Miss Chua has very good English skills. Reads English better than most of us. She can find errors on the colonel's and major spellings. She can read the colonel's handwriting, which is terrible. She's about 3 months pregnant. She can be sad, but she's not irritable. Thursday, July 1st, 182 days have come, 183 days left. Being around the Mama Son and the other Vietnamese, it's so easy and tempting to think of them as children. They talk in childlike English. They're so tiny in stature. They're so consciously trying to please, at least around me. They are so excited by little gifts and wonders that they can find here. I find myself thinking they are childlike, but they aren't, you know. If they were, we wouldn't be fighting them 2 miles away. And we complain about the Arvin soldiers. We laugh at them. They're so bad. But then, what are they fighting for? But no one laughs at the VC. I've never heard our men laugh at or scorn a VC. I've heard them spoken of in tones of awe, with very grudging admiration about their ingenuity and courage. I had great fun this noon. I got my camera out, loaded with film, and walked around the battalion shooting pictures of color. Bright yellow culverts, peeling red fire barrels, weather-beaten doorways, rolls of wire, fence, trash cans, fire extinguishers. Bright colors contrasted with drab surroundings. It was great fun. Actually, I felt I was doing something. My problem is composition, how to arrange the subjects. I may ask Dutch for help later. Color I found more of it than I dreamed of. Saturday, July 12th. Page 2 for Popular Photography Annual. Oh, I bought a Yashica camera. This is on the 10th. Cost $108 at the PX. Would have cost $240 stateside. Exactly what I wanted. About 5:30, got news that a 379th truck ran into a house and injured 5 occupants. Condition unknown. 11:40 p.m. The condition of the girl and the 5 people in the house near Xi'an are still uncertain. Sunday passes, nothing. Monday, July 14th. Located four of the 5 victims in the house hit by the truck. All home and okay. Then went to the Arvin camp at Ben Ann with Dibble, Mrs. Tao, and a 379th Jeep driver. We found the house. Driver wanted to say something to the guard, but at the town, but neither understood one another. Mrs. Tao asked me what I wanted to say to the guard, so I told Mrs. Tao to tell him that we wanted to see the house and family that had been hit by our truck. The guard took us down a narrow path surrounded by high sandbag walls and wire and tall stone tower about 30 feet high, to a place just beside the tower where we saw a mass of broken bricks and a 3-sided house. House appeared to be a brick duplex with a tin roof. The west wall was gone. The debris had been cleared from the house. What had been the front room was empty. House had a concrete floor. 3 Arvin soldiers accompanied us. One had an M16. He was a guard and had just gotten off duty as we came in. They talked excitedly to Mrs. Tao. She was telling me how the accident happened. They told her what was damaged. Of course, they pointed out the missing wall and the sagging roof. They had lost a TV set, $34, a phonograph player, $15, and a radio, $5. They showed us the radio and the phonograph player. The TV set was in the repair shop. They took me to a tiny room behind a board partition. I saw the family close up. There was a very young girl. She looked 13 or 14, long dark hair, doe-like eyes, in a dirty shirt and pants. She was very thin, small, and sad looking. Okay. Then I saw the mother and child. They were unforgettable. She was terribly thin, small, with long coarse hair, very plain face. She was holding a very tiny baby. It looked like it might have been born only a day or so ago, but it was born a month ago. She never looked at us. She just sat holding the baby with great care. But she had a look of disgust and anger in her eyes. All the time she kept her eyes on the baby. Only once did she look up for the baby, and that was to help her little boy take a piddle right on the middle of the floor beside us. Scrawny ducks and chickens slipped in and out of the room. The mother had cuts on her face colored with iodine, which made the wounds look even more gruesome. The little boy, 3 years old, looked like he was 1 year old. He was so tiny. The mother and sister showed us the cut in the back of his head. The mother never said a word. She was too wrapped up in the kids. She looked tired and bitter. The people were not imploring us. They talked to us in matter-of-fact tones. You did damage to this, this, this. It was worth so much. How much will you pay us? How soon? Very simply said and put. They talked business in a businesslike way. They didn't seem angry or bitter. They seemed to be talking frankly. You hurt us. Maybe it wasn't your fault, but you did, and it's only fair. You should repay us. And they worried about the next storm. Believe me, they had storms. Remember the one where the water was flying in the building? Okay. There was no good shelter. The driving rain would whip right through the house, and they were right. They wanted the damage repaired as quickly as possible. You couldn't blame them, those 2 little kids. I told Miss Tao to tell them we were sorry that all this happened, and I would tell the colonel what I saw and what they told me, which I did. And I offered my hand. We shook hands. I bowed to the ladies, then we left. I sat behind Miss Tao in the Jeep, saw her looking out on the countryside, and wondered how I would feel to see my country cut up by barbed wire, army convoys, fear of guns, war, poverty. I wouldn't be happy about it because I love my country too. I'm sure she also does. I wonder what she thought. The trip, it was so pretty. It seemed in its own way so pastoral. Like a certain country roads I remember around Olga and Vang, North Dakota when I was a little kid, with its little farms and closeness to the earth and its church steeples. And I wondered, I felt like I was I really felt I was in Vietnam rather than some extension of the United States. Tuesday, July 15th. The woman and child are still on my mind. She looked so sad. She reminded me of one of those Flemish Madonnas with her pale skin, slight slanted eyes. I wish I could have taken a picture of her, but I didn't dare. It wouldn't have been right. And then we're off to the moon. I think I'll move on a bit. I'm going to run ahead a little bit. Something I want to... I'll do that a bit later. But anyway, this is where we're looking for mortars, right here. I'm the one taking the picture. I took a couple of pictures, then my camera ran out of film, so I didn't. But anyway, the guy in front of me, right there, after a little bit, we were walking on fairly solid ground, and then suddenly into the slough, and the water sort of comes up to your hips. And at one time, he stepped in a hole and fell forward and over. And it was a bit of a shock. Now we're going to black and white pictures for a little bit. This is sort of some country scenes. Whoops. Helicopters, villages. These little hillocks with the trees on the top, which sort of unusual. highway scooting by, barbed wire in front. One of the villages, I think this is the village that Zion, where I went to that house. That's a Buddhist temple over there. You can't really see them, but they had little swastikas, but they were reverse swastikas in the sense that, or the original swastika that the Nazis took and changed. But it's also had a Buddhist meaning that was much pleasanter. 379th Transportation Company after the August 25th, 1968 Viet Cong ambush. And I told you about that earlier. These are military photographs, except for this. These are bunkers. These are the trucks. They've been hauled in and easy. We start seeing the bullet holes in them. They've got a really nasty situation, as you can imagine. And one of the missions is also to make yourself happy, keep yourself together. And they had EM and NCO and officers clubs, which had very, very good bands. And that's what we could do in the evening, go and watch. They had bands that could imitate the best of the Beatles and all the Mamas and the Papas and all the other stuff. Very good music. And sometimes, like the Filipino ones, they may not know a word of English, but they knew how to mime it, and they did a really good job. I think this one might have been the all-girl band. They're a mixture of pictures. But they were good. I'll tell you about one maybe about that wasn't so good. Free time. This is what people are doing when they're off duty. And that was a common sight.
Is that a skivvy house?
A what?
A
No,
skivvy?
no, that is actually the hooch. But they're having a good time.
Did they have skivvy houses in the compounds?
Not that I know of. I was sort of.
You were sheltered?
They're just fooling around. No dark faces here. That's me.
Looking very serious.
Oops. There we go. I was walking around taking. No, I was me taking the pictures. We got the booze illegally. We weren't supposed to have any hard liquor, but we had some sergeants or lieutenants once in a while. And we appreciated it. This is a friend of mine. He's the one that taught me a lot about the. He liked his beer, and I'm not sure if I was the one that really looked like that and was shaking when I took the picture, or if it was just a good portrait of him at that particular time. This is Lieutenant Cohut, who I really liked, and I only have 2 pictures of him. I really didn't take many pictures of officers, and both of them of him were blurred. But that's probably what he might have looked like to me on a couple of occasions. And that's Browner.
Nice.
Dutch is my camera. Yeah. Whoops, daisy, where are we at? Oh yeah. Here we're going around taking pictures. Browner and Dutch and Joel Hoffner. That's Browner. This is one of the Mama sons working on the grounds, in the post. Osborne is lifting weights. So there's a number of activities you could do. That's Nympho and his Playboy wall.
Okay.
There's Joyner and Osborne. They were Joyner worked in the supply, and Osborne was one of the drivers. They were from North Carolina. And so they got that. I one day slipped in there and put a little sign under there. Yay, General Grant. I should have put Sherman, but I wasn't thinking. These are Miss Tua, Miss Tao, and Miss Chua. They would come, they were secretaries, and they came with beautiful, called them Odai, I can't pronounce them, I don't know if
Aodai.
anybody, huh?
Aodai.
Aodai?
Yeah.
Thanks. But they're beautiful, they're kind of trouser, pants, dress affair. And they really, that's Miss Lee. They really dressed nicely. That's one of Mama's sons. She was cleaning. That's my desk, or part of it. This Miss Chua, yeah, she had her hairdo there. Sergeant Rivera, and he's playing pool. He's one of the truckers. I can't remember his name at the moment. Whoops. Smitty, from Louisiana. This is an early picture with some of the guys. They're having some beer in the hooch. That's me on a hot, miserable night. Ever-present
Smoking
pipe.
pipe.
I always had a pipe. That's me again.
What happened to the mustache?
Mustache is there.
Is it?
Different color.
I dyed it. That's me, Mick, like a Buddha. You know, sometimes you do anything for humor. Really, sometimes a bit silliness. My cap, and I had a reclining Buddha and a few things. Oh, that's Howard Pig. Poor guy had that last name, and I think it sort of had a bad effect on him. This is some of the guys, Smitty, Howard, and Silva. Silva was supply sergeant. Oh yeah, that shows what you can do with Commander-in-Chief. Get away with it. I mean, we did get away with it. I could, in certain other circumstances, we could, but we did. And we had to have a girl on the wall, of course. Miss Kim, Miss Chua, very nice outfit. They loved clothes. Here we're having one of the barbecues. This might have been around Christmas time. Chief Warrant Officer Metzger is doing the cooking. Lieutenant Lloyd, he's replaced Lieutenant Kohut. He was a good guy. Barunda from New Mexico. He has a hot dog in his mouth as well. And a beer. Oops. And I'm getting a toast. That's the shape, line, color. One of the things that happened was I got to a point with the drabness of the place. It's just drab. Browns and beiges. That's basically what you saw. And the ground, I mean, there wasn't even really grass except right where the colonel was, you know, they had their grass and manicured little lawn and white fence. And so one day I just, to heck with it, and I started looking for pictures, for color. This is July 1st. I had great fun this noon. Oh, I might have read this one. I got my camera, loaded film, walked around battalion, shooting pictures of colors. Bright yellow culverts, peeling red fire barrels, weather beaten doorways, trash cans, fire extinguishers, all kinds of things. But I had a great time, and then I started doing that every day at noon. And so, and started out with sort of just gather a few bits of bright color. And a simple, ordinary plastic Somalia. That's it started out simple like, but see, you can see the lines and the colors. And then, this is one of those little Instamatic, this is before I got my new camera, but I started just getting, I couldn't quite get where I wanted it, so then I turned the camera at an angle. And there's no special meaning to these pictures, they're just color. This one you can't see very good, but you can see the kangaroo. But then there's also like the flower
Child.
Yeah, flower child, and then it's 88 days ETS. Yeah, 88 days. Whoever did it gets out of the army. Altoona, Pennsylvania. Spanky, love, so on. Browner is walking by. He's walking by there, and I saw one. He'd walk by there periodically. I thought, this make a great picture. So I caught him one day. Coulter,
We're hitting the 60-minute, just.
Okay, we are, ooh, then I better
Yeah.
get going.
That's
I'm gonna go real quick now, because we're getting overtime. And so we'll get through this, and then I think I have some things I want to. Yeah. This happened in October. Some guys got out, found paint. And they went and painted everything. And it was like that for exactly 35, 40 minutes. The colonel went for a walk. An hour later, everything back to what it was. This is Vung Tau, a trip to Vung Tau. It's a resort community about 65, 70 miles south of Long Bin on the China Sea. And you can see what, these are just some pictures of, I got to go there with my camera. As I said, this first sergeant sent me there. But you get a look, there's the South China Sea, villas, the well-to-do, street scenes. There was no war there. It was very peaceful. It was the town was surrounded on 3 sides by swamp and then the ocean. And so it was a resort town, and the story was that the Viet Cong liked a place to go to get away from the war. And also, they owned things there, like hotels and things of that sort, and made money there. So, anyway, it gives you an idea of what you see. A bicycle, French colonial style buildings. France had controlled that place for about 100 years. Courtyards full of beautiful flowers and plants. Look at that porch. Look at the staircase going up. This is a Catholic church, and it had Gothic doors and Gothic windows, but then it had a Chinese pagoda-style bell tower. And then you've got the 2 girls sitting out in front in their Aodais. Market. Here's going to the main market in the town. She's frying like little cakes. Did smell good too, I think. All kinds of fruits and vegetables. Cutting fish. One of the hotels. There's a man selling stamps for stamp collectors. Jewelry. Girls going off to school. One of the buses. It's beautiful, lots of color in them. Liquor. Little boy selling cigarettes. Mama was probably close by or something, I don't know, but
Probably caught on.
whoopsie daisy. It's a mother and a little boy. Really neat picture, but look at the face. It's beautiful. Now here's stuff, GI stuff from sea rations and all of this. So one of the things we were told that they really didn't want to see us there because it was a black market there. But good grief. I went anyway, so did everybody else. This young guy, but you would call him a cowboy maybe. Little shrine on the tree. Little Buddhist picture. Little kid that just happened to be. Oops. Another kid, a bit older.
60 years old now.
Yeah, they would be. Grandpas and grandmas. This is a Buddhist mountain shrine. And you're going up, we're in a Jeep actually. Going up this hill, high, high hill.
Wow.
600 feet.
And this is the stair, it was a gate. There you go up the stairs to where the Buddha is. The little girl's trying to sell you flowers to decorate the shrine. This lady wants money. There's the Buddha in between, as you're going up through the through plants and everything. You're at the base of it now, and there's an altar. This little guy is one of the guides. He wants you to, he wants to show you around and get some money too. Can't say I blame him. This is like a Buddha and his disciples. This is a statue shop where they make me in. This is a friend from Minnesota. He was also in basic training with me, and I met him in Longtao. And the kid standing next to him, I'm trying to remember what in the world he was doing there. And suddenly he was just a kid that's up there wanting to show you around. So he'd point to things. That's the Buddha. That's this. That's that. And then we'd leave, money, money. You know. So that's, and we ended up giving him $1. And there's some shrines. You can see the Buddhist temples going up the hillside. A little village on the side. The Buddhist monk is tending a garden. That's a Catholic shrine. You see like a church off in the distance. South China Sea. There's some people in there. I just happen to like that. The waves coming in, splashing, and towards sunset. And you can see one of the villas up in the place. People, I'll go through this real quickly. Sergeant Major Stokes, he was a nice guy. He balled me up for missing formation once. And I would never have believed it of you. Browner, he was my fellow postman. Dern from Muppet Group, and we'd have to send our papers to him, and he'd correct them. This is Nuji. I just happen to think there's a really good picture of Nuji. And we always took 2 pictures. One we'd give to them, and the pictures would come, and the others we'd keep for ourselves. Joel Hoffner from New York. Guth was from Boston, Gloucester, Mass. Thompson, but I don't remember much about him. Horn was from Kansas City. He was a driver. 2 ladies I met on the road up, going up to group. And then they continue on. This guy, John, was in Vong Tao. Charlie is known as the guy that would predict when the VC were going to hit. So the story goes, Charlie says that the VC are going to hit tonight, you know, and maybe they would, and then maybe they wouldn't. But there was another thing about him too, was that he was a during the day he was a furniture maker. So he'd make furniture, not during at the weekends. His job was he made furniture, made money from that. He also, he had a number of kids. He was also at night, he did work for the Arvins. He was finding himself periodically on guard duty or something on the village, or going out and hunt for the so-called bad guys. Sergeant Thompson and a Chavez Regal. He gave me some on Christmas Eve, and I had a very good time. Scouts Command Sergeant Knowles, who was one of the best I'd ever had as sergeants. Horn. Joyner, that's me. Miss Tao and my radio. Nat, he's from St. Louis. Nat. Van Slyke, he was a roommate there toward the end. Miss Lee, standing up by there. He was the carpenter, and I think it was Frank, but I can't remember. Crab. Miss Tao, again, really nice. That's one of the mama's sons, and I don't remember her name. Miss Tua. There the guys got rewards. They're going home in a few days. They got special medals and stuff. Silva, he was really pretty good, sort of a gruff guy, but he really was good at sort of taking care of us. I had a acting sergeant major who went on a convoy, and he had made a mess of his gun. He and I hated each other, this guy. And he was going to make me clean his gun. And Silva was in charge of the guns. He said, no, you got to clean your own. And I'm going to make mess, I do it. And Silva went over to talk to the lieutenant, told him what was going on. Tartar had to clean his own gun. Rivera, Lee and his magazines. I just like the picture of it. That's me. Dibble. Oh, there's a story. If we have time, I'll tell you about that. He has a story which I am going to tell. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. Because it is a very unusual story. I hate to do it without, in my own words, because the way it is written here was much better. Oh, here we go. Monday, July 28th. Just got back from Dutch and Martin's room. That's, no, Martin's not there. What did I do? Did I change something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Martin. We were talking about the war. Martin told us he had seen the greatest and eeriest picture in one of my photography magazines. This VC, lying dead, sprawled out, with all his personal effects scattered about him, and his billfold was lying open, and a picture of his girl, looking up at you with a smile on her face. And then Martin said, "If I had to face Charlie tonight, face to face, gun barrels pointing at each other, he, Charlie, would get the first shot." You know why? Because that picture showed me. Charlie was same as me. And I found that really spookily beautiful. Again, me and my stuff. I'm going to write. Chaplain, a very nice guy, Billy Goforth, always trying to get us to go to church. Once a day, he actually intervened. They were going to have a big inspection on Sunday morning. He said, "No, if those guys got to go to church, we would go." We went to him, begging, "Please," and he got us out of it. And of course, he expected us to go to church. If you didn't go to his church, you went to the Catholic church. Well, guess what? Anyway, poor guy. It was sad. So really quickly, moving right along here. Maybe we just get some straighter. Miss Todd, her Army Award. Brenda, his award. This is a shrine, a kind of an ancestor worship shrine, found on the grounds. Another tomb on the grounds. A rose, that's my mother's rosary, and she had sent it with me, and so one day I draped it over some barbed wire and plants and put a flower in there. Said she really liked it. R&R in Bangkok, which you won't have to look at, just me. That's it. Christmas and the New Year. Moving on. Okay, that'd be Bryson. Thomas making a card for the lieutenant. Here we're playing, blowing pieces of paper, music, our Christmas tree, with a little peace sign. And I think Bob Hope Christmas Special. This is on December 28th, the Sunday, with Lunar Armstrong. Here it is. You're walking up to it. This is a kind of an open amphitheater type thing, and so you can see everybody's all over the place. There's Bob Hope, and he's got his golf club, and people there. Let's see here. Bob Hope, Connie Stevens, the gold digger, Miss World, and Neil Armstrong, the astronaut. And you can see them all gathered there. Even up there, they may have been repairing something, I don't know. But it is a pretty good crowd. And we got a good view. You can see the barbed wire in front of us. And he's got his golf club sticking out there. And here comes Neil Armstrong. And that is the end of the pictures. Let's see, there might be a couple things I just thought I might read to you. I think the most important ones I did read. Oh, Halloween. Oh, yeah. Friday, October 31st, Halloween. The U.S. government played its trick on me. When I was in basic training, like an ass, I signed up for a U.S. savings bond, $18.25 a month. They took one out, no more. Today I got paid $36 instead of the usual $280. They had taken all the rest of the bonds out. I have a car to pay for and an upcoming R&R in Bangkok a few weeks away, and I needed it. And Lieutenant Lloyd said, not to worry. Okay, tonight Armstrong told me they had $100 for my R&R if I needed it, and he could get some ground up some more from the guys. It really shook me up. It's hard for me to grasp. Let's put it this way. Armstrong said suddenly it's changing. He smashed another tinted window. The other day, I asked Nuji if I could borrow some money from her. She looked at me as if I was crazy. And then, lo and behold, she went for her purse. I stopped her. But to pull a trick like that sort of in her, but at the same time, suddenly, she reaches in to get some money. I thought that was amazing. Is there anything else before I let you guys go? Oh, yeah, I think I should read this. Sunday, October 26th, I ran into Dibble and his new replacement at Chow tonight. And I'm glad I did because Dibble's leaving for home tomorrow. Dibble described the operations of a guy named M. M is a legend among the EM, it seems. According to Dibble, M has sent home, through diplomatic channels, about $40,000 that he has made on the black market. Here's Dibble's story. A driver was responsible for his cargo. A driver had one loophole. If cowboys robbed him, that is, if cowboys robbed him. The cowboys are young Vietnamese guys who don't like either Americans or the present government. They're young hoods on motorbikes and only interested in themselves. Two of them ride up on the reefer vans, big vans of goods, which are allowed to slow down or stopped in Saigon traffic, which is easy to happen. One hops on the back of the van, breaks the lock, climbs in, throws out cases of steak, beer, sea rations, whatever they're carrying, out onto the street. They make a deal with a taxi driver who comes along right away and stops, picks the stuff up, and hauls it to an appointed place which on the black market and sold at top prices. The profit is between the taxi driver and the cowboys is split. Now M supposedly started selling goods off the truck on a small scale, but made enough to buy a bar for $10,000, marry a Vietnamese girl. Later he sold the bar for $11,000. Here's how he did it. He organized his own band of cowboys to rob his own trucks on the run from the Saigon gates to the Long Bin post. He split the profits with the cowboys and his taxi driver. With the bar, he came in contact with the Vietnamese wife of an American official at the embassy. This wife operated a whole series of bars down near the docks and had a syndicate which set the bar prices. M and the woman became friends. He is said to have dined on a frequent basis with her and her husband at the embassy. And with the profits, he got them sent back to the U.S. through the embassy, thus escaping legal red tape. Dibble's, what the story, as to the story Dibble told, it may or may not be true. His replacement was with us, and Dibble may have been trying to lead the guy on. But anyway, it is fascinating. Okay, and I think that is, yeah, that's probably better. That's pretty good. Still But anyway, it's